Hello everyone, my name is Ujjwal Mishra. I am a civil engineer working with L&T Construction. I have done my BTech in civil engineering from VIT Chennai in 2018. So today I'll be sharing my experience on one of the most important aspects in construction, that is safety. So some of you might be wondering why it is not a profit margin which is important and safety is important. This is because I do not think any of you might have heard that some XYZ project became very successful even though more than 100 people died. Have you ever heard about that? I don't think so. So projects do not become successful only because it has attained quite a good profit margin, but it becomes successful when there is minimum fatality and minimum injuries throughout the project work. So today I'll be sharing my experience on ports and harbor construction. So okay, I'll take you to the presentation. Okay, so we'll be seeing incident analysis for ports and harbor project. What are the safety requirements and mitigation strategies? So this is the outline of the presentation. It will have project background, objectives of the work, introduction, risk analysis. Risk analysis will be divided into two parts: risk severity and probability, and risk matrix, followed by factors responsible for incidents, safety in barge operations, and risk mitigation. So many of us have a confusion regarding what is a port and what is a harbor. So I have drawn a basic difference here. As you can see in the presentation, so there are various comparison metrics that I have taken, and I have compared what is a port and what is a harbor so that it becomes easy for normal person or a public to understand the differences. So if you take the meaning, port refers to an arrangement where boats and ships move and transfer passengers and cargo to and from land. But harbor alludes to an area. So this is basically an area which is next to the shore where watercrafts are anchored for getting safety from stormy weather. So what is it exactly? So port is a place for docking, traffic and storage of boats. And what about harbor? It is a place for storing boats. So when we come to construction part, ports are always man-made, but harbor can be a man-made structure or a natural harbor. So what is this used for? Ports are used for trading of goods and cargoes between countries. And what about harbor? Harbor is used for seeking shelter from bad weather. Vessels. So this is a place for vessels so that it can be safely stored. Harbor, it is also used for storing vessels. Onshore facilities. So in ports construction, onshore facilities are available, but in harbor it may or may not be available. So this is an example of a Visakhapatnam port, as you can see in the picture. So as I have told you about port and a harbor thing. So the land area which you can see here where these ships or boats are stored, this particular place here, here and here, this is basically a port. And this water area, you can see this entire area, this is a harbor and this is a natural harbor, as you can see here. So I hope now the difference between port and a harbor is clear now. Moving on with the presentation. So the project background, we'll start the presentation with the project background. So the case study that I've taken is from a port construction site. So port construction basically includes following things to be done. One is sand filling on water, piling activities, superstructure work and revetment works. So what is sand filling on water? So this is basically done to prepare the working platform so that most of the works can be done on a land mode of construction. And it becomes easy to construct anything on a land as compared to water. Piling activities, you might have read or heard about it. Superstructure work also you might have read or heard. So what is a revetment work? So this is something which is not very common. So this is a basic cross section of a revetment work. So this particular structure, as you can see here, this one is a revetment. So what is basically a revetment? So this is a sloping structure. This particular thing you can see here is a sloping structure. So this will protect your shore side, that is the land side, from crashing waves. These are the waves. So this is the water side or the sea side. So this particular sloping structure will protect the land from shoring and erosions. Okay. So what is the main objective of the work? Is to understand and categorize different incidents occurring in ports and harbor construction, to understand safety requirements in barge operations, to understand the mitigation strategies for different activities carried out in ports and harbor construction. So starting with the introduction part. So in any project, what is initially done is incidents are classified into various categories. So the example that I've taken, I've classified it into 8 categories. So these are nothing new. You might have already read about these categories. So it is only the difference between how you number or name the categories. So for this particular example, I have given from category 1 to category 8. So category 1 is number of fatalities. Category 2 is number of reportable lost time injuries, which is non-fatal. Category 3 is danger occurrences. Category 4 is reportable sick cases. Category 5 is major environmental incidents. Category 6 is first aid cases. Category 7 is near miss cases. Category 8 is minor environmental incidents. And these may vary from projects to projects. So now coming on to risk analysis of various activities in a ports and harbor project. So before starting any work, all the activities are listed out and potential hazards for that particular activity are prepared. Their impacts and mitigation strategies have to be prepared before that particular work has started. So what are the activities in a port and harbor construction that needs special emphasis for risk and its mitigation? So these activities are working at height, vehicles, tools, plant and equipment, excavation works, temporary works and foam works, cranes and lifting, piling activities, hot work and fire, working in confined space, working in and around underground and overhead services, working over or adjacent to water, climate and environment. So now this particular risk analysis will be divided into 2 parts. One is severity and other is probability. So what is severity and what is probability? So severity is how intensive that particular kind of risk is. So it signifies the intensity of the risk, and probability, as you might have already heard, it signifies the chances of occurrences of that particular kind of risk. So what we have done here is we have analyzed a particular kind of activity on a probability and severity scale, so which is from 1 to 4. As you can see here, 4 is the maximum value, and if a particular activity has a maximum value of 4 in severity and probability, this means the impact is very likely to happen and it is very severe. As you can see here, the probability says the event is almost certain to occur and has occurred repeatedly. So this particular activity will be given a value 4. And best safety practices will have to be followed for this particular kind of activity having value 4. Similarly, we have value 3, which is likely to happen. Value 2 gives unlikely possibility, and value 1 says very unlikely. So I'll also show how this particular kind of table is used in subsequent slides. Another important thing we have is a risk matrix. As you can see, this is a particular matrix. We have severity values on the x-axis and probability values on the y-axis. So maximum value is 4, minimum is 1. So as you can see, this is a table that has been generated, and these numbers, as you can see inside, are the multiple of these two values. For example, this one you can see is multiple of 1 into 1. This 4 you can see is a multiple of 2 into 2. This 6 is a multiple of 2 into 3. Similarly, 12 is a multiple of 4 into 3. So why there are different colors given here? So for any activity, these metrics are prepared and colors are given. This means it becomes easy for any viewer to understand that the numbers in green have very low risk. So if these activities have to be performed, minimum safety standards are enough to mitigate all the risk in this particular kind of activities. Similarly, orange color says that the activity that you're going to do has medium risk. And the red color says the kind of activity you're going to do has very high risk. So best safety practices have to be involved for doing these kind of activities which have red color or high risk factor. Okay, so what are the factors responsible for incidents? So we have basically classified three important factors such as human factors, physical factors, and management factors as the most important factors responsible for any incidents to occur on any site. So what are human factors? So human factors are basically subdivided into a few other parts, which says poor task behavior and using shortcuts, unsafe behavior of the worker, standing and operating in an unsafe position. So this is the thing that are not properly done by the worker working on a site. Physical conditions. This belongs to the site conditions, which is unsafe operations, hazard originated due to external site factors, unsuitable work area. It may or may not be belonging to a human error, but mostly it belongs to physical conditions of the site. Third, we have is management systems. This belongs to the superior or the project managers or the management that is working in that particular kind of a project. So what is the subdivision? It is unsafe work methodology or not specific to task. That is, they follow some generic work methods. Not enough trainings conducted and instructions given. Lack of proper supervision on site. So these are the things that lead to incidents in most of the site situations. Okay, since this is talking about ports and harbor work, so one of the most important thing we have in any port or harbor construction is a barge. So what is basically a barge? As you can see in this particular picture, this is a barge, and this is a crane which is mounted on a barge. So all the activities that needs to be done on the sea part or the water area has to be done using this, because you cannot do all the work on a land mode now. So this is arrangement that is used for working on a water mode. So what are the safety things that we have to follow here? Barges are operated by a trained and authorized person. It has to be operated by trained and authorized persons only. PPEs, that is personal protective equipments like life jacket with reflective tape, safety shoes and safety helmet shall be worn by all the people working on the barge. Barges are fitted with top rail, mid rail and mesh net. So I'll show you in the picture as you have seen here. This is the mesh and rails provided here, as you can see on all the edges. So this is basically a top rail, this is a mid rail, and this is a bottom rail or a toe board it is called. So this will prevent any person from falling. Permanent hard barricading shall be provided. Warning lights and running lights should be provided. Self-igniting light aids shall be provided. And mooring lines shall be checked all the time for the operations. So I'll show you what are mooring lines and other things here. Okay, in this particular picture, this is for a barge and how safety setup is provided in this particular barge. So as you saw about rails, top rail, mid rail and bottom rail, and also there is a door access, steel mesh are provided, and live boyas with self-igniting lights are also provided. These you can see here. This is a mooring arrangement. So this will help to anchor that particular barge at a place where some kind of activity is going on. Okay, continuing now. Access and egress must be adequately illuminated. So in this particular picture, you can see this is the access and egress on barge. So it has to be secured properly using structural steel material. Rescue teams shall be readily available at all the times to deal with emergency situations. Passenger vessel barges of under 60 meter in length shall carry not less than 6 live buoys. Warning signs and notices shall be displayed. all bollard ropes to be secured properly to avoid falling into the sea. So what is a bollard rope? This is a bollard arrangement, as you can see. So it has to be tied in a particular pattern so that anchoring can be done properly. Structural materials, supports, winches or cranes shall be in a good condition and fully secure over the barge. As you can see in this particular picture, we have crane mounted on a barge and how it is secured properly using structural steel material. Crane swing area should be marked and warning sign shall be placed. No lifting shall be carried out in heavy winds above 30 miles per hour. So these are some of the important things that has to be taken care of. As you can see in this particular picture on the left, we have a night shift operation going on the barge. So minimum of 100 lux of visibility has to be provided, as you can see here. Okay, now moving on with the mitigation strategies. So what is a mitigation strategies basically? Mitigation strategies are the control measures established for each and every activity that is going to be conducted. And why do we have to do this? We have to do this so that people or the worker who is working on that particular activity knows that what is the probability, what is the severity of that particular kind of risk, and what are the safety practices that he has to follow for that particular kind of risk. So as we saw various activities initially, we'll take few examples of the activities and show you how assessment is done. So first activity is working at height. So what is a hazard here? Hazard is unprotected leading edges and impact of falling objects, damage due to falling objects and production. So what is the risk involved? Risk involved could be as severe as fatality or serious injuries due to falls and impact of falling objects. So who are the people at potential risk? This is general site workers or general site staff or site visitors. Anybody could be at risk. Now, how do we assess this particular kind of activity? So as I told you about probability and severity, and also risk matrix which provides the number for that particular kind of risk. So these kind of activity has been rated as maximum of 4 as the probability factor and also maximum of 4 as the severity factor. So the index becomes 16. So as you remember the colors, number 16 is the maximum from the risk matrix table, and this means the best safety practices have to be followed or else any misleading could lead to fatality or serious injuries. Now what do we do here now? So we have to establish control measures so that this particular incident, if something happens, could be mitigated. So what are the control measures needed here? First is install edge protections. As you saw in the barge operations, we have guardrails. Similarly, edge protections has to be established. Ensure fall protection and install signage in all the places where work is happening, and in the night shift proper lighting has to be provided. So what is a reassessment now? And you see here the value suddenly drops from 4 probability to value of 2 probability, and the index becomes 8. Now this shows orange color. Now what is a reassessment? This means that if these control measures are established correctly, the risk index from 16 can be brought down to 8 with these control measures. This means now moderate level of safety practices are enough to perform this activity when these control measures are established. So this is just the reassessment of these control measures that we have taken. This value 16 comes because there are no control measures established, and now this 16 has dropped to 8 because these control measures are established. Okay, moving on. So this is a safe practice. So there are 2 excavators working adjacent to each other, but the swing area of one excavator does not cross the swing area of the other excavator, and hence this is a safe practice, and it should be permanently remembered that these booms should never cross each other. On the left, you can see this is a material loading activity going on at a location where the dumper or the truck you call is unloading the rocks into a split barge. This is also a kind of a barge which is used for transporting the materials from one place to another. So you can see here edge protections are given here for this particular kind of activity. On the right hand side, you can see a survey boat. So this is a surveyor and he is having a helmet, life jacket, safety shoes, and is also holding to a structural element so that while this particular boat is moving, he doesn't fall into water. So this is a safe practice. Okay, next activity we have is excavation. So here also hazards, risks and potential risk factors are established, probabilities and severities are given, and control measures are established. So what are the control measures? Excavation shall include the method of shoring supporting the excavation. All excavation shall be inspected by a competent person before start of day's work. So you can see if these control measures are established, the risk index can be brought from 16 to a 4 value. So when the value is 16, best safety practices have to be established, but with a 4 minimum safety standards are enough to complete that particular kind of work. Now we have another activity which is working over or adjacent to water. This is one of the most important thing in any port and harbor construction, because this is mostly done for over 50% of the project work. So what is a hazard? Hazard is fall of person into water. Risk is risk of drowning. Potential risk, everybody who's working on that particular area is potential risk. So what is the severity and probability? So the index value here is 12. This means this is a red value. So best safety practices have to be established for this particular kind of work. So what are the control measures to bring this particular index to below than 12? So one is edge protection, as you saw in the barge operations. Safety harness should be worn and secured in the lifeline. Suitable lighting shall be provided. Rescue boat shall be made available. Life jacket shall be provided. Activities at edges shall not be performed on rough wind times or dark hours. Caution boats must have proper information and boat points shall be properly secured. So if these activities or measures are followed, the reassessment value for that particular risk will give 3, which is in green color. This means minimum safety standards are enough to perform this kind of activities, which is near to water. So these are some do's and don'ts for working adjacent to water. On the left, you can see this is how you tie a bollard. It has to be secured properly in a proper pattern, and it should not be this unclean and untidy like this. This is about using a life jacket, and it should be a proper fit jacket. It should not be a loose jacket like this. It should be a proper fit jacket. Now this is how you rescue a person who has fallen into the water. So first thing you do is throw a ring boya. So this particular thing is the ring boya. So once the person receives the ring boya, he will be secured at a particular place and he will not drown at that particular time. You can go and call for help till this person tries to survive here without drowning. This is for a daylight activity. What if that particular person falls in a night operation? So first thing you do here is also throw a ring boya first. First you throw a ring boya, provide light so that the person knows that he is being looked after and it doesn't drown. And you can also identify him. Then go and call for help. So that's it from the presentation. I hope you are able to understand why safety plays an important role in any construction project. So from the presentation, I would like to summarize few key points which are most important, and I would also request everyone to remember those things. Number one, the difference between port and a harbor. Number two, how to make a risk matrix. Number three, what are the safety precautions that needs to be followed in a barge operation? And the last and the most important one, how to prepare a mitigation strategy for any kind of activity. So thank you and happy learning.